What's going on, YouTube? As you guys can tell by the title of this video, I have a very interesting topic to talk about today. And that is the fact that X Games recently released that they are banning all electric dirt bikes from competition for the year of 2025. Now, as most of you guys know, I've been riding the Stark VARG for about a year now. I think the first time I actually touched this bike was the summer of 2023, I believe. I rode it out at Paula and really liked it. Decided to, work with the Stark guys a little bit. They sent out a bike. I rode it most of the year last year. And then coming into 2025, I actually signed a contract with them to basically ride this bike full time. Now, I still do have my 450. I still ride it, a little bit here and there. They do allow me to do that, but they are technically the official manufacturer sponsor of me. And for all competitions, I am supposed to be on a Stark VARG. I also have been attempting to get into the best whip at X Games for probably 2 years now is really when I actually started to kind of go after it. And about a year ago, I really made the decision that I'm, going to go full bore at it and really try to get in, chase getting at least one of the medals, and really see where I can push myself. I knew last year I probably wasn't going to get in just because most invites do go out in February or March. And obviously being from Michigan, I wasn't really riding around February or March. I still hadn't really hit a ramp that much, especially on the Stark. I really was pretty fresh to it about a year ago, and surprisingly, I actually made some big steps towards it. I got pretty good by the time X Games rolled around. I was trying to get in as an alternate last year. I talked to some people. It wasn't super likely, but I wasn't too mad about it. I was, still pretty fresh to it. I would have loved to get in, but I also hadn't really, done enough to earn the invite. So I was like, whatever, let's just keep pushing, keep grinding, and see how far we can take it by the time 2025 rolls around. So that leads us to this exact moment right here. And I'm not super surprised by this ban and the fact that it happened, but I wanted to get on here and express my thoughts and feelings about it, and kind of, allow you guys to go crazy in the comments and put your own opinion and just see what everybody thinks about it. So we'll start with my initial thoughts and a couple key points that I wanted to touch on. Yes, I can totally see both sides. I understand gas can't physically compete with electric just because obviously on a combustion bike you have gears, and on most ramps you're hitting it in second gear for a standard 75 or the next gen at 72. No, you're on a 450, you're hitting it in second gear, and you can, change some things with gearing. And I know Tyler Behrman hooks his foot under, and a couple other riders hook their foot under when they go off of the ramp. And when I say hook their foot under, I'm talking about the shifter. So they go off the ramp and they hook into third gear, so that allows the rear wheel to spin a little bit faster on the 450, give them a little bit more of, room to play with. Versus on electric, I'm going off of the ramp, and the minute I crack the throttle wide open, I'm basically at sixth gear pinned on the fastest 450 you could ever build. And to explain the physics behind a whip, it's basically angular momentum and how fast the rear wheel spins. You're basically chucking the rear wheel in a circle, if that makes sense. So you go off the ramp, mainly for a seat bounce whip, but it applies to all whips with the angular momentum. You're basically chucking the rear wheel in a circle, and the faster the rear wheel spins, the easier that is to do, because it makes the bike feel lighter and lighter and lighter, and you can come back from a big endo a lot easier when the rear wheel is spinning faster, because it'll lift the front wheel and the front end of the bike up. And you can also get just as big of a whip out of a 450 as you can on a Stark, but you're not going to bring it back on a 450. There's almost physically no way, unless you were to somehow go off the ramp and click into fifth gear. You might be able to do it, but it's highly unlikely that you're one, going to be able to do that, and two, in second and third gear on a 450, you're not going to land the safest. You're either going to get really nose heavy, you're going to crash, or it's going to look really ugly and sketchy, and it's not going to look like these Stark VARG whips do. So from that perspective, yes, I totally understand why it's not, the most fair competition in the world if it's the best on gas versus the best on electric. I will say with the addition of the next gen ramp the last couple of years for best whip, it's a little bit closer of a competition because the 450, and with the next gen ramp being a little bit taller, a little bit steeper, the 450 is able to get under it a little bit easier, and obviously you're never going to be able to like snap it back on a 450, but you can get pretty close to the same like upside downness. I don't even know if that's a word. You can basically get like pretty similar. The electric just has that crazy snap and allows you to like basically throw the rear wheel past the front wheel while you're upside down, and you can keep your head underneath the seat, which makes these whips look like you're just doing a cork zero or like a McTwist or something. It just looks absolutely unreal, even though like if you were to take a still photo side by side of Tyler Behrman and Patrick Evans last year, Tyler's like pretty upside down. He looks like he's fully upside down, but the head positioning of Patrick and the fact that he is able to chuck his rear wheel way past what Tyler is just makes it look way crazier. Then again, there's also the standpoint of the fact that the Stark weighs, I think, 20-some pounds heavier than a 450. I think it's around like 268, 270 weighed out. And that's, you can definitely feel the weight when you're not riding the bike. You know what I mean? Like, it feels super heavy when you're putting it on the stand, or even if you were to just straight jump it, you can feel the weight for sure. So it's not like it's some crazy, 170-pound motorcycle like everybody else on the internet likes to think. Like, this thing's pretty heavy. Like, batteries are not light. And the fact that regardless of what motorcycle you're on, you still got to go out and do the big whip. You know what I mean? Like, you're still going to have to go off the ramp, fully commit. Like, we're at the point where we're committing like it's a flip. I mean, I wouldn't know because I'm not really into flips and tricks like that. But you're basically going off of the ramp and fully committing to the whip, like at the bottom of the ramp. Versus like if you're used to just doing moto whips, like you go up and you're like, oh, I'll whip it in the air. Like, no, we're going up the ramp fully cracked all the way to the stop on these things, leaning as hard as we can. I've bent bar mounts. I've tweaked my bars out of position just from how hard I'm pulling off the ramps. So regardless of what bike you're on, you still have to go out and do it. You still have to have the skills. You still have to be able to commit to something that gnarly. And I feel like 99% of the keyboard warriors and the people on the internet don't understand what we're actually going through to do this stuff. Just wanted to kind of throw that in there so people are aware of that. But anyways, I can totally see how it is, slightly unfair, and there's clear advantages of riding electric for best whip. Now, when we go to like best trick and quarter pipe, I don't really know nothing about either of those. I will say that I don't think there's a big advantage riding electric for that. I thought it was kind of weird that they've been banned altogether. I understand best whip, but I don't really understand the whole quarter pipe and the best trick stuff. I don't really understand. If anything, it's safer to ride an electric in best trick because the bike can come around a lot faster from like spins, and you can get the thing all tweaked out with whatever trick you're doing and feel safe enough to, like, if you get in trouble, crack the throttle and have the rear end like kind of adjust itself and come back. So I honestly think it might be safer. Quarter pipe, I think it's just who has the biggest set of balls to do that. I don't really think you're even close to using all of the power that the Stark has. And if you were, you might end up going like backwards on the quarter pipe. So obviously I'm kind of just talking out of my ear right there. I don't really understand either of those events, and I have no interest in doing any sort of tricks or ever touching a quarter pipe. So I'll leave that to those guys to, debate, but those are my 2 cents on that. Now, with all that being said, I do think it is a tad unfortunate that they kind of decided to ban electric completely for at least this year. I was pretty confident that going into this year, I would for sure get the invite and be a top contender and be battling with, Patrick Evans, Wyatt Fontenot, Tyler Berriman, obviously, Julian Van Stippen, battling with all the top names in the best whip category for a potential medal or a potential win even. And even a couple weeks prior to finding out about the ban, which I found out about the ban a couple days before Day in the Dirt Down South, so about a week ago now, a little over a week ago. A couple weeks before that, I was talking to the head guy that handles all of the invites for Best Whip, sending him videos, sending him updates, telling him, like, hey, like, I really, really want to get in. Like, I have a next-gen ramp coming. I'm going to be prepared. Like, let's make this happen. Whatever I got to do, even if I'm in as an alternate, like, I just really want to be in. And he was like, yeah, looks awesome. Like, great. We'll be in touch soon, which is the last text that I got was, you know, we'll be in touch soon. Stand by, basically. So even though I know he isn't in total control of what goes on and, you know, the rules and all that, I'm sure it's way, way above him. I did think that was slightly odd because I'd assume there had been talks about this, you know, months in advance or right after last year's probably. I do think having a separate class would probably have been a better solution. I do also understand from a crowd standpoint not having the revs and the smell of race gas. You know, say 4 out of the 8 competitors are on a Stark, it's going to be a pretty silent competition. So I understand where everybody's coming from when it comes to an entertainment value standpoint. But I think if you would have allowed us to maybe have a separate class or allowed us to, I don't know, throw on a competition between just us, you know, maybe the invites that we're only on Starks, maybe we have our own little competition, just a little quick final, or I don't know. I'm just coming up with stuff on the fly as I'm talking here, but it would have been a better solution than completely cutting us out dry, because most of our contracts are going to have bonuses, you know, at least from my knowledge. All of my contracts I have right now have bonuses for, one, getting in X Games and making the final in, you know, X Games podiums and gold, silver, bronze. We all have bonuses for that, and they're pretty significant. So it kind of sucks that it just got completely cut out. But on the bright side, I believe there will be positive outcomes from this and more opportunities for, if they do go with a, you know, electric only class, there will be obviously other manufacturers coming in with their own dirt bikes, or I should say their own electric dirt bikes, and coming in and bringing in more riders, and we'll have bigger competition and possibly more money and, you know, more. I think it'll just be a beneficial thing down the road. I do wish they came up with a better solution for it, because there's riders like me, Patrick, Wyatt, who have been grinding tirelessly all year long to try to one-up each other and become the next big, like, best whip guy. And I also understand we aren't on, you know, the gate for a main event. I'm not lining up at Southwick for a 35-minute moto with Tomac to my right and Roxon to my left. It really isn't that deep, and it's not going to make or break either of our careers or any of our careers, really. It's not going to break any of them, but it is good to have a competition for us to look forward to and, you know, let out our competitive side, because 90% of the year we are all buddy-buddy and hanging out, high-fiving, fist-bumping. Like, it's healthy to have a little bit of competition. Plus, it is the X Games. You know, growing up as a kid, I always looked forward to watching the X Games, especially during the Pastrana and Nate Adams and Brian Deegan era, like Ronnie Renner. You know, I really looked up to all of those guys and really wanted to be like those guys. So to be in a position to be able to go out and potentially compete and potentially bring home an X Games medal of whatever, bronze, silver, or gold, like, it would have been a huge bucket list thing, and it still is, but it might have to wait till next year. And I know a lot of people are saying in my comments, oh, just get back on the gas bike, go pick up the gas bike and do it. There's a couple reasons I won't do that. Number one, I've changed my technique so much to fit this electric bike, and I am so used to going so big on this electric bike that if I hopped on a gas bike and had a brain fart, it could potentially be catastrophic. Like, I'm not, you know, just doing these little moto whips anymore. We're fully upside down. Like, I have this entire bike over the top of my head. If I have a brain fart and forget what I'm doing, it could lead to a massive, massive injury. And combine that with the fact that I did sign a contract this year and I'm supposed to be competing on the Stark VARG and all of the competitions that I end up doing, I'm not really willing to risk my relationship with Stark over one competition, especially because Stark has given me the opportunity, even before I was doing these massive whips and before I was in the position that I'm in now. They took a gamble on me. They allowed me to come out, ride the bike in California, come out and do this. Like, they got me a bike. They helped me out so much. And, you know, a couple years ago and even now, like, that's such a big help. And I'm not really willing to go and risk that relationship, especially over, you know, a couple $1,000s. Because I know the X Games prize pool is, I think it's 10 grand to win and then $1,000 for second on back. And obviously I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it because it's been a dream of mine and a huge bucket list item. So it's not like I'm doing it for the money, but I'm not really willing to go and risk my relationship with the Stark future guys over, you know, a couple $1,000s. Like, I am willing to stay patient. I'm still very young. I still have a lot of time. Like, I'm just going to be patient. And I also believe there will be more opportunities down the road for myself, for everybody else that is, you know, within the Stark team and just electric bikes in general. I believe there will be more opportunities, and if I'm going to compete, I want to go head to head with the gnarliest dudes out, and that would be Patrick Evans right now, Wyatt Fontenot. We're all three basically pushing the limits of what's possible with the whips. So, and all three of us are on the same exact equipment, so it would only make sense. Plus, in another year, I'm sure there's going to be another 4 or 5 dudes that are, you know, doing the exact same stuff as us. So it's honestly only going to get gnarlier from here, and I'm all for it. Anyways, those are my key points that I kind of wanted to get on here and talk about. If you guys have any other questions or comments or just want to put your own opinions, feel free to drop them in the comments. I'll be reading and responding to basically every comment I see because I'm highly interested to hear what you guys are thinking on this topic. And if you've made it this far into this video, make sure to drop a like and a subscribe. And regardless of the ban of electric bikes at X Games, I'm still going to be putting in the work, still going to be pumping out a ton of YouTube, ton of all social media content, so this ban definitely isn't going to stop any of that. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in and listening to me ramble. I'm going to leave you guys with some unseen GoPro footage from one of my recent sessions down here at CGI facility, and I will catch you guys in the next video.